fair enough. There are distortions in the system. I'll get to you in just a moment, Mr. Delisle. There's a separate narrative going on, and we've heard it across this panel, and we've been talking about this for years, that if you subsidize the cost of the loan, you will distort economic efficiency. If you give people access to debt that exceeds their ability to repay, they're going to make unwise financial decisions. And that has a certain, sounds logical, we all took freshman economics. And yet, as Raj Chetty has pointed out in his sort of magisterial work on wealth and income inequality, the single best predictor that you are going to find yourself in the top quartile of income in your peak earning years is whether your parents were in the peak quartile of income when you were born. Some of us were so smart that we chose our parents wisely. Some of us were too dumb to do that. If it is the case, access to an affordable education distorts your rationality. It makes you more prone to do foolish things. It makes you more prone to enter into careers that don't generate a useful income. If affordable education is so distorting, why are the children of the ultra-wealthy so darn irrational? Mr. Delisle, you described yourself as a capitalist. Why is it that the ultra-wealthy don't enter into lines of work that don't pay them an income?
I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case.
No, quite to the contrary. The best predictor that you are going to be in the top quartile of income, not wealth, although wealth is also true, top quartile of income is that your parents are born that way. So we do not see data that people who have access to zero-cost loans that never have to repay them, that get total loan forbearance, we see no evidence that those people are going into foolish lines of work. Why are they so irrational?
We see evidence, right, that they're actually, they are doing quite well. Why I think it's such a waste of money to forgive their loans.
I am asking a different question. People who, if you do not have to have a loan at all,
Proverbs chapter 1 verse 1 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
I'm not talking about whether or not those families chose to take out loans they could afford to repay. Why isn't Donald Trump Jr. working in a shoe store as a philosophy major writing poetry?
I think the data shows, we'll talk about data and evidence here. The data show that high-income families take out student loans.
That is not the question I've asked.
You said, why don't they? And I'm saying,
I am asking why people who do not have the need to take out loans violate your theories of economics that assume everybody is rational.
Gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Duffy, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a father who has his kids not going to school, I can tell you the student loan system is jacked. It's a horrible system. I think what it does is, if you're poor, you get subsidies, and college is more affordable. If you're wealthy, you know, you have parents who will help you pay the middle class gets crushed in the way that this system works. That's just my personal opinion from going through the process. Would the panel agree that probably the smarter the kid, the better school they get into, and maybe the less smart the child, the not so great school they get into? Is that, do you guys agree with that? No?
I don't agree with that, given the history of racial injustices in the country, and the fact that we have disparities across K-12 schools that are concentrated in low-income neighborhoods of color, who haven't adequately prepared our students. And so this smartness level, which is usually measured by grade point average or SATs or things like that, are inherently biased. And so they don't determine who is smart. They determine who had wealthier parents who could put them in certain schools and give them access to certain programs.
And even the data with those SAT programs shows that there's also a mismatch between our students who have the ability to go into higher schools, but then don't.
Great points. But the higher the SAT and the higher the GPA, the better school. The lower the GPA and the lower the SAT, the lower rung schools. Is that a fair assessment? Whether that's really the intelligence or smartness, I think you make a good point. Is that fair enough?
Why are you looking for a girl in bar? Go to church.
like I said, that there is
if you have a 20 on your ACT, you're probably not going to Harvard.
I mean, or if your mom's Aunt Becky, you can just pay your way to U.S. So what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here?
But
You and I, we're both former MTV stars. You get it.
Let me tell you what.
I was the star of MTV
Anything
Saturday Season 5. You know what it's like. We can't afford that MTV check.
I'm going to reclaim my time. I know you think it's a joke.
It's not a joke.
Yeah, but you think it is. And you want to come in here and make light of a serious situation, so I don't think it's funny. So you can sit here and do your film and make people laugh. Well, we're trying to have a serious conversation, and I only have 5 minutes. So leave it alone. My point is, we do have a problem. And I agree with my colleagues that the problem belongs with the cost of education. Okay? And if you're going to let me go to your school and you're going to charge me $50,000 or $60,000 a year and give me a degree that I can't make a living to pay the loans back, what skin in the game does the school have? Letting me in, charging me the money, giving me the debt, and I can't pay it back. Who pays?
Now, some person keep those friends now. You have to be selective.
Mr.
Now say, "Oh my,
and should they have skin in the game?"
So I'm actually happy that you're trying to talk about solutions.
So
should they have skin in the game? Should we claw back some of that money?
I think that there needs to be more.
Should we claw back money from schools? If you give me a degree that I can't pay back my loans, why should the taxpayers? Why should
there actually were a couple of rules that would have ensured that the worst performing schools would have had to return some of that money. The Borrower Defensive Repayment Rule and the Gainful Employment Rule, which this department.
So we should claw money back from the schools.
We should hold schools accountable, especially the worst actors, for-profit schools. It's not about clawing money back. It's about holding schools accountable for the fact that they have low-quality programs that cost a lot of money.
How do you know?
You will never know from all the schools, whether you're going to the best schools, the medium schools. It's my time. Listen, all schools have this problem. And so we should claw money back from all the schools that give kids degrees with high debt and they can't pay it back. Number one. Number two, I think we should look at endowments. I mean, you have billions of dollars in endowments.
During the time of your life,
loan forgiveness to all students. So in University of Wisconsin, Marathon County, $5,000 a year to go there 2 years. Then you go to the University of Wisconsin, Madison.
Jonathan,
$18,000 a year. That's a really smart choice. Those are kids making really smart decisions for their financial future versus the kid that goes to Dartmouth and pays $58,000 a year. So why should those who became a union welder and went to a union welding school, or the kid that went to UWMC, pay for the kid that went to Dartmouth and has the pathway of Dartmouth? That's fundamentally unfair. Instead of a system where you have kids getting great degrees and making big money, and we the taxpayers, we the union members are going to pay back their school? That's insane. And I yield back, Madam Chair. Gavel me down.
Gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Presley, is recognized for 5 minutes.
I just want to say I'm very disturbed as we perpetuate
and she said,
the
now
fiction
for
that we
you,
live in a meritocracy.
you don't have to keep
and
them
that
rest
people
of your life.
advance based
You
simply
have to let them
acumen
well,
when we're in the midst of quite literally some very high-profile people who have their
those
children's
why
SAT
I want you to
scores
say now
fixed.
for my say
And
Jonathan.
things like that have been going on
Keep
by the
them.
powerful and the few for a very long
But
time.
one more you say
Okay,
Jonathan,
so I want to say
let them go.
thank you, Chairwoman Waters,
It could be
for
said that I'm for
leadership,
by US and
for
I'm
making
not
sure that this committee stays focused on those issues of care and consequence to the American people. I especially appreciate the frame and the titling of this hearing. Several months ago, when Director
Because
Kraninger of CFPB was before this committee, I asked her whether or not we were in the midst of a crisis, and I could not get her on the record to even characterize student loan debt as a crisis, when in fact it is. When we talk about the chokehold of this debt, and I've just spent 6 weeks in district, in the Massachusetts 7th, hearing from families who are struggling to put food on the table, to pay the rent, to take care of aging parents, to pay for child care. What does all this mean ultimately? It means that people are alive and not living. This debt is not just choking our ability to build wealth or our purchasing power. It is quite literally choking people. We had a hearing and oversight and reform on trauma, and we learned that suicides are on the rise for many reasons, and one of those reasons is debt despair. So this is choking at the promise of our country, and quite literally we are losing lives because of the debt that folks are burdened by. So it is a crisis, and for those across the aisle that perhaps think that we are being dramatic, cannot overstate a 1.6 trillion in debt, crushing close to 45 million borrowers. You cannot describe that as anything less than a crisis. So I thank the chairwoman for her leadership, and for those across the aisle that questioned whether or not this committee is germane to this issue, when you overlay this with discriminatory policies like redlining, and then Ms. Harrington shares with us that 90% of defaults are disproportionately borne by students of color. There's no way that there's not an interconnectedness and intersectionality from homelessness to housing to many of the issues that this committee tackles. And so this is exactly what we should be addressing as a committee. The facts of this crisis, and again, it is a crisis requiring no exaggeration. We are past the point of just paying attention. It's time to act. Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to approve a statement from the Student Debt Crisis, a nonprofit organization dedicated to combating this crisis. Thank you, Mr. Farmer. You led the team at the CFPB, whose sole responsibility was to watch out for all student loan borrowers and consumers. What were some of the trends that you and your team noticed?
So unfortunately, what we see, just like we saw in the mortgage context,
and
is when servicers fail, the most vulnerable borrowers the most. And in the student loan context, these are borrowers. So we see now even holding for constant income, degree attainment, borrowers have double-digit rates of default. And with that in mind, the Bureau announced that we were going to be looking at whether or not student loan servicers and student loan companies are in compliance with the nation's fair lending.
During the time that the CFPB begin to look into potential discrimination in the student loan servicing industry in violation of civil rights laws, including the Equal Credit Opportunity Act.
So in April of 2017, the CFPB announced that it would be prioritizing supervision work, whether or not student loan companies were complying with the laws, the nation's fair lending laws, in particular whether or not borrowers based on their race were more likely to have difficulty getting payment plans.
To your knowledge, does the Bureau continue to look into these issues?
Unfortunately not, based on your own conversation with Director Carringer, it appears as if the Bureau has just dropped its work.
Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to request unanimous consent to include a letter from civil rights organizations, including the NAACP and the Leadership Conference of Civil and Human Rights, urging CFPB to look into racial disparities in student loan outcomes and potential discrimination in the loan servicing market. Mr. Farman, our friends across the aisle have mentioned that student loan servicers are supposedly not incentivized to steer borrowers toward forbearance, that they are not financially incentivized to give borrowers poor or outright incorrect advice. Yet an audit released by the DOE in February of this year found that more than 60% of the department's oversight report contained examples of servicers acting improperly. If our friends across the aisle are correct, and loan servicers are not incentivized to make mistakes and give poor advice, then why is this consistently happening?
Because they are incentivized to get their call reps off the phone as quick as possible, as we see across the industry, leading to the outcomes we have today.
Yes, that time God knows that.
For coming and for sticking with us throughout this very long committee.
But female, male friend. Now, look at Saddam for your own one, or you'll be a Yamiso one.
As you know,
and to be person, Mr. Fan for keeping himself friend, not Saddam of Friano.
Spend 10 years.
Bruni, no, yeah, so I want to be his friend too. No, my friends, no more, no more.
Somebody in a
yes.
Make 120 months.
But who could Prince Macasama and Melaman improvement can qua.
Now, obviously, it's not working out that way. We have evidence that 99% of those people who applied for forgiveness were rejected.
Me kuna ni nyo se no be nyo din kon kan na me wale ende ye. So ma sa afọ no. Sa so so na koma me ma no so. So ile ka say. Tama na one me we nyan hia ni nyan wale na so ni ababa we di ko so ya na fo pa we ti say sister pa ye.
Absolutely.
They see what you hear, just sister, you only do come in, man. You have to understand also, man.
Right? But again, it goes back to whether
because
students have access to the plans, whether services are putting them in the right giving them the right information to make sure they are properly enrolled, that they are making the right payment.
If you have any continue contest in retaliation, what does it have? And so who will be no can for money
that relief, and most of that information again comes through their service.
If you have any situation or Jim can say you are a situation, so who am I for Mukruma or come from Musuta?
It's a big problem, yes.
Okay. Now,
so I bet time when I can have for them, so a Christian up heaven.
I guess with regard to, I would ask Ms. Harrington, do you know who Kathleen Smith is?
Yes.
Who is Kathleen Smith? She was, but did you know that she's been hired by the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency?
I had forgotten, but yes, I did know that.
Okay, so now
she's
their head of Director of Federal Relations. Is that correct?
Yes.
So she's now a lobbyist for that private entity.
Yes.
In fact, its FedLoan is the subsidiary of the PHEEA. And so now he's overseeing.
And that year by another, sorry, Nadia. I for Matipa, Nadia, my so I know, but over me, you had the cost of our dinner
to stymie state attempts
someone who can remember
student loan servicers accountable.
That's happening from uninvited guests.
A few memorandums that
they are uninvited, but they want to invite themselves.
They have attempted to preempt state enforcement and regulation of student loan servicers, trying to curtail the state's already.
And if you allow those uninvited into your knowledge, they will destroy your house.
The CFPB under this administration got rid of the Office of Students.
And the Sapo no more ban.
As you said, a person with direct ties to the loan servicing companies. And so there's a major problem, and that's just the tip of the iceberg for action the department has taken that kind of undermine our confidence that they are working to achieve their mission of supporting students and providing access to high quality education, and that the CFPB is assuming its mission of protecting consumers.
And are you aware that PIA's $1.3 billion contract expires in December this year? So the Department of Education and the CFPB have made it harder for states to go after bad actors.
I'm trying to be. But me make say,
they have put a former executive from one of the bad actors in charge of enforcing consumer protection, right?
Yes.
And now
I'm saying
has gone into government relations with that bad actor. Is that correct? Thank you,
have to be
Chair.
careful.
I'll yield back, but that sounds
Well, what
pretty
the
sloppy to
inquiry?
me.
Men could dear Rajadi. I saw pen you can't get the man said, you know, I didn't quit Newcastle. Those uninvited guests, and usually don't come from they don't come from a they usually come for inside
for the record.
They are the uninvited guests.
Staff report entitled "The Credit Supply and the Rise
Adam
in
for
College Tuition
Adam for Belema, now you're betting me to quack from on
Thank you. So I guess one good thing
Adam for baby out Mrs. Albawe no when you micro betting how many
the effects of
may entertain will be a faithful person around your marriage.
Young professionals' balance sheets has a horrible effect.
And I may entertain your own faithful friends around your daughters.
Basically, to get started in the American dream.
They will destroy their life.
I have a constituent who I talked to a lot about this. She went to my alma mater for law school.
And
I took a bunch of student loans. And her and her husband are making real trade-offs on can we afford to have another child? Can we afford to buy a home? And I think her story is indicative of stories all over the country. Again, somebody who did everything right, who continues to do everything right, but just can't quite get out from under debt.
You make the
One
right
interesting thing, though, is we seem to be focusing on what I think is just a weird
You
place,
pick
like
a
the very
right
end of
friends
the spectrum,
with God.
the very final stage, which is the loan service.
And you make
Whereas
decisions
all these
with
other
God.
things happen in advance that lead to higher tuition,
But
that lead to the fact that we can't refinance these loans. And so we're, for some reason, we're focusing here. I guess that's the only part that we have jurisdiction over. But it strikes me as just a strange place. So to summarize, Mr. Delisle, just quickly, again, I know this is said a lot, no underwriting standards.
Right, that's right.
Federal government is essentially guaranteeing the loans. And then all of this that we're talking about, fully controlled by Congress?
That's right.
Okay.
And
so clearly a problem that we have created. I want to focus on the rising tuition costs, which is why I submitted this for the record. Mr. Delisle, are you familiar with the study that I just mentioned? Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the premise of the study, the conclusion of the study is as federal government has taken over these loans, as they've increased caps, that has in fact resulted in skyrocketing tuition.
Right, that's right. So
right. So the fact that we have gotten into this industry hasn't done a thing about the cost of tuition. All it has essentially done is transferred the debt.
yeah, I would say though that the tricky part with those analysis is we know that student loans allow more people to go to school. So it raises tuition, but more people can go. And we know that when people get loans, people who don't, they tend to finish. They tend to get better grades. So, you know, a lot of complaining about student debt here, but sort of fundamentally, it is a
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that gets into the ROI, right? A big investment is okay if there's a real ROI there. And you're right, we haven't talked much about that. But I want to ask you specifically about an area that I know you research, which is income share agreements. So the thing I find interesting or that I like about it is it sort of shifts the risk, right? So instead of the student taking out the debt, now the university or the institution is taking out the debt, if you will, and saying we will provide this education up front, provided you pay us X, Y, Z over time. I guess from your research, my question would be, where have you seen this work best? As we're legislating or thinking about it, what should we be thinking about in terms of these are best practices that are doing well by students and
I think you have it right, and I think it gets to what Congressman Duffy was talking about, is the sort of beauty of the income share agreement, where it is being done right, is when the school is making it.
Right.
When the school makes it, now the school has risk, they've got the skin in the game. And the great part is, we talk a lot about, sort of free tuition. An income share agreement is a way to not charge students tuition within an income share agreement. They only have to pay it back.
Right. If it works, and then you build in certain
And
protections, like Purdue University, as one has done. And I think, again, the beauty of that, you graduate, you have no debt. You have a liability, you have to pay the income, right? But in fact, when it comes to borrowing or other things, whether it's a house, a car, whatever, it's currently on people's balance sheets, it's now moved off. With that, I will yield back.
Na nipa saa nipa ko no ede contribution oye to wo awade contribution be no oye ba wo that you ni wa sa fo betu no mana show mu yem so mo ma question was obisa
your testimony as a former educator and somebody who educated
so one now for us that you want me your ma say ma wonye wadamfo
this is a personal issue for me. Student debt's a problem for all young people, but particularly for low-income students who are predominantly people of color with a higher education degree as their ticket into the middle class. That's the promise that we make to our young people. And so as members of Congress, we need to start keeping our promises. Ms. Harrington,
Senka
thanks,
Jonathan
for
Tiasiam,
appearing
Senka no
before the
David
committee. I want to thank you for your work
Salam for the bin
on the
here.
Center's report dealing,
Hey,
detailing the student debt
one day,
crisis
there's some
in my home
money
state of
pass
North
me, yes,
Carolina.
hey,
The
and
report
you
shows that of the 44 million Americans who hold $1.5 trillion in student loan debt, 1.2 million of those live in North Carolina, holding a debt tail of about $44 billion. You'll hear my friends on the other side of the aisle blame the Obama administration's elimination of the federal family education loan program as the cause for student debt crisis. Can you explain what the Center's report showed that are the key causes of the dramatic increase in the debt in North Carolina?
Sorry. Her report shows that there's a number of key causes, right? Yes, tuition has risen, but there's been a drastic disinvestment at the state level in higher education. The purchasing power of the Pell Grant has been drastically reduced. I think we should remember that the federal loan program was never meant to be the cornerstone of the HEA. It was meant to be the Pell Grant. It was meant to be actual grants, not loans. But we never allowed the Pell Grant to keep up with the cost of college and to keep up with the proportion that it should have covered from the beginning. It's the rise of for-profit colleges that, again, have disproportionately targeted low-income students and students of color with programs that are low quality and high cost. And students are more likely to drop out of those programs. There's a completion crisis.
Yes, you
and this is particularly concerning again in North Carolina, where we have a number of institutions that serve students of color and low-income
different.
And yes, you go historically black colleges and universities.
Thank you. So you detail in your testimony that students of color are risk due to ballooning student loan debt.
Over 70% of students at HBCUs are low income. Over 80% are African American. And so the biggest issue, whether you're going to take out a student loan and how much, is your Pell Grant eligibility. And so by disproportionately serving these students, but serving them well, they are taking on students who have to take on more debt. So on the back end, it takes students of color, particularly African American students, more debt and longer to pay it back, and they are more likely to default.
So what impact does it have?
It has an impact on the amount that students have available resources to give back to their schools. So I think we can, and this corresponds to the wealth gap in higher education as a whole, right? So if you already are serving low-income students who will continue to be low-income because of the way the system is set up, they often have fewer resources to give back. We have HBCUs on average have much lower endowments than larger institutions. That also contributes to the fact that students have to take on more debt and that these institutions continue to struggle.
But they still like sisters and brothers.
Can HBCUs actually be a part of the solution decreasing the student debt burden, in your opinion?
Absolutely. There's much we can do to better fund these institutions to make sure that they become a cornerstone of the way we address student debt and the way we address higher education in this country.
Some more
Thank
can
you
say.
very much. The gentleman from New Jersey,
Anybody
Mr.
pass it?
Kramer,
Who
is
can one in a
recognized for
champion?
5 minutes.
Now, so
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you all for being here today. We're all grateful. The Federal Reserve recently published a new report about homeownership, which found that roughly 20% of the decline in homeownership among young adults can be attributed to the hefty increase in student loan debt. This is felt particularly hard in my home state of New Jersey. According to a 2018 study, 61% of 2017 college graduates in New Jersey graduated with student loan debt. Concurrently, recent census data shows that the number of homeowners under 35 years old in New Jersey decreased from 7.7% in 2007 to 2016, and 47% of 18 to 34-year-olds in New Jersey are living with their parents, the highest in the country. Homeownership can be an incredible way, as you know, to achieve the American dream, and I'm worried that not enough households are building wealth through homeownership due to increasing student loan debt. Mr. Frotman, if I can start with you, sir. One idea put forth by the committee is to direct the Department of Housing and Urban Development to work with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Federal Housing Finance Agency to review the barriers to homeownership for borrowers with student loan debt and make recommendations for policy changes that will responsibly reduce or eliminate hurdles. What do you think are some of the biggest barriers that HUD, CFPB, and FHFA should immediately address?
So I think one of the issues that I've seen is borrowers are getting their payments reported to credit reporting agency, and it's all over the map. And when lenders go to try to figure out DTI calculations, they're also unnecessarily punishing borrowers. So I think this is a perfect example of how this is this committee's job. Right? I think there's an opportunity to reduce barriers that are being put in place because of these back-end problems. And I think, as you mentioned, I think this bill is a good start.
Yes, I mean, one of the issues is like, how do we consider net amortizing loans when we're looking at housing? Borrowers have the right to an income-driven payment, but then how's the housing market looking at that in terms of what the borrower can afford?
According to the CFPB, 71% of student loan complaints between August 2016 and September 2017 involve complications dealing with the lender or servicer, as we've heard about today. Servicers' omissions or misrepresentations of information related to the servicing of a loan are increasingly common, as you've all pointed out. Earlier this year, the Inspector General for the Department of Education reported that between 2015 and 2017, federal student aid found instances of servicer representatives failing to adequately inform struggling borrowers about their available repayment options, which is very frustrating, obviously, if you're not even presenting all the options. Ms. Yu, I'll ask you this question. How do you think, how would creating clear rules of the road prevent student loan servicers from omitting or misrepresenting loan serving information benefit student loan borrowers?
Well, so a couple different ways. First of all, as the Borrower Bill of Rights proposes, we want to make sure that borrowers are informed about income payment options prior to forbearances. Even if a forbearance is ultimately the best decision, we need to make sure they're getting those options first. We also need dispute resolutions. Part of the problem is that borrowers are frustrated because things are going wrong. Paperwork's getting lost, and they don't have a single source, a single point of contact to try to resolve these errors.
Thank you. I hope we have time for one more here. Some academics who work closely on the issue of student loans argue that there's not only a student loan debt crisis, but also a student loan repayment crisis. And by forcing students to start paying back their loans right after graduation, we're setting our graduates up for failure. A 10-year repayment plan is the most common student loan repayment plan, but it usually takes several years at least after graduation to reach a point where a degree is paying financial dividends. Ms. Harrington, if I can ask this question to you. Has the Center for Responsible Lending put any thought into potential solutions to this repayment crisis?
Absolutely. We recently released a report with several civil rights groups where we talk about ways to improve the income-driven repayment system, how to streamline it into one plan, how to lower how to decrease the repayment term to 15 years rather than 20 or 25 years, to base the payments off of 8% of discretionary income, so that 250% above the poverty line rather than 100% above the poverty line. These are all important reforms that make it actually affordable for borrowers to pay back their loans and do other things like buy homes, start businesses, and save for retirement.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. The gentlewoman from Iowa is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you also for the witnesses for being here today. We appreciate it. Just yesterday, I heard from Liz, she's a teacher in Urbandale in my district, about the issues that she's had with her loan servicer. In 2007, Liz began teaching, and of course that's when the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program began. So she called the servicer to see what she needed to do to be eligible, and was told she didn't need to worry about the paperwork yet, and wouldn't be eligible for another about 10 years or so, and so send her verification forms when it gets a little bit closer to that date. Then when she followed up, closer to that date, 5 years later, she actually tried to get on top of it by calling another 5 years. She followed up to make sure she was eligible. She was told her loans were now ineligible for the PSLF because they had been serviced by other loan entities, unbeknownst to her. I want to right here, tell you a little bit about what she said. Liz further said that she was told there was nothing that could be done and that very few of her payments qualified. And then she said, for a while, I thought I was the only one in that situation. I never grew up for money. I came from a single family household. I remember being so cold in the winter and going hungry. Nothing in my life was easy, so I figured this was just one more thing to add to my long list of unfair things to happen to you. But put your head down, work harder, work longer, and somehow maybe you'll come out just a little bit ahead. So I thank you all for being here because this is truly impacting people's lives. And Mr. Minaj, since you recently did a story on this and you pointed out in your opening testimony